The lifeblood of every single business idea is capital. It's basically the blood that pumps through the business and keeps the business alive and allows the founders to actually turn an idea into a huge solution to a major problem. I've grown and scaled multiple 8-figure businesses and have raised over $10 million of capital in my life. In this video, I want to share the different types of capital that all of you guys have access to today and which one you should use for what kind of business idea. I also think you guys will walk out of this video with a clear image and a different relationship with capital and money as a commodity overall. Let's dive in. So I think rule number one, and the biggest thing that shifted for me before I go into the different types of capital, is my relationship and my thought of capital. A lot of us operate in what I call scarcity mindset, and that's the belief that there's only so much capital in the world and it's gotta be equally distributed and there's not enough of it. Abundance mindset, what you'll find a lot of entrepreneurs believe in, is that there's plenty of capital in the entire world to go around to where everybody can just have plenty of it and it's amazing and abundant. In the first paradigm shift that I had within my entrepreneurial career was actually moving over from scarcity mindset to abundance mindset. And in this video, I kind of want to share with you 5 different sources of capital that you have today that can fuel the fire of your business and which one you should use for why. So let's dive in. So the first source that I want to talk about, and it's actually very easy, these are credit cards. Any new business, if you go right now to most credit card companies, if you have a decent credit score as an individual owner of the business, you can get a credit card to start supercharging that business. In the personal world, personal credit cards typically have limits of like, a couple $1,000s. You can probably easily get a credit card of $40,000 to $50,000 limit on a business credit card. In fact, I just started another business a couple months ago and opened up a Chase United card. I'm not getting anything off of referring the Chase United card, but there was a $40,000 to $50,000 limit on it. Credit cards can be an awesome way to give you that capital that you need to get your business off the ground. The only problem with credit cards is that you need to use them responsibly in activities that will have that payback, such as marketing and lead gen sources that can pay themselves off in profits within 60 to 90 days. So that way you can basically pay the credit card back off. And using that wisely in online marketing efforts can actually be a nice boost to your business and help you attract more customers. The second type of capital that exists out there is loans. And I've used loans in a variety of different forms and fashions. The most common one that you can think of is like a mortgage on a property. So if you're in a real estate business, for example, you can use a mortgage and or a home improvement loan to purchase a property and then use money from the bank to fix up the property and then sell that said property. If you're in property damage restoration, for example, which was an industry that I came from before, you can actually use financing companies to finance pieces of equipment. You can finance vehicles, assets, and things like those. And loans are actually a great way to access capital, typically in larger sums and typically at lower interest rates than credit cards. The SBA also has a lot of different programs for startups that you could apply for different loans. They have term limits from anywhere from $100,000 to a couple $1 million, whether you're buying equipment, buying other businesses. They could be a great resource. Just know that when you're taking a bet using a loan, you're responsible for that payment, and oftentimes as a business owner, you're personal guaranteeing it. So if the business goes underwater and that payment is $8,000 a month, you're gonna be responsible for paying that $8,000 a month until the end of the loan. So make sure that you're personally responsible and wise when you're actually taking out loans to fuel the solution to your problem. So credit cards and loans can be rather tricky in the sense that you're personally responsible and these large creditors and lenders can actually go after you personally. If you're looking for something a little bit more risk, you may be able to find other capital resources to basically sell a small percentage of your company and a small percentage of the vision to somebody else, and then that person can put money into that company to help fuel it. And typically the subset of people that you would go after are called angel investors, and that is actually the third source of capital that I want to talk about. Angel investors are typically high net worth individuals, meaning people that have a lot of money, and they reside within certain communities and have some sort of overlap with your vision, mission, and so on and so forth. This is a great tool that you can use early on when you don't really have a lot of revenue, so you're not really gonna work in the fourth and fifth capital structure that I'm talking to you about, but you have this great idea and you need some capital to get it off the ground. Now, the fourth source of capital that exists out there in the world, although it's typically a little bit more mature for businesses that are already turning profits and they're looking to get extra capital to put more fuel on the fire to grow even faster, is actually private equity. So private equity companies are basically these funds that go out and raise from these other funds and high net worth individuals. And they basically say, hey, we're gonna go out here and raise this capital or bring this money in, and we're gonna make these bets on X amount of companies. And these bets are gonna be fitting this investment thesis. They're gonna be cash flowing companies. They're gonna do very, very well. And us as a private equity company, we will take a percentage of the profits that we generate for all of these different funds and high net worth individuals. So that's how private equity companies fundraise money. And then typically private equity companies look at cash flowing, smaller to mid-sized businesses that they can go in and take in at an early stage, let's say $5 to $10 million of revenue with $1 to $2 million of net profit. They can come in there, purchase a small chunk of it, let's say 30 to 40%, 60%, or sometimes they purchase all of the company and they basically hold on to that company. There's cash flow that goes back to their stockholders, and then they want that company to grow to a bigger size to where they can actually sell it to another private equity company. And you'll often see companies kind of be sold, or shares of companies be sold over and over again. Typically, private equity is really good for a cash flowing, profitable business like a home service, or, you know, think about HVAC, think about plumbing, think about restoration. That's made it, you know, probably past the $5 to $10 million of revenue mark with good trajectory and traction on net profit. And those companies aren't necessarily, they don't really need to necessarily be on this aggressive trajectory where they can go public sometime, right? They just need to show that they're turning some sort of profit. And it can be a great solution for the company to take on some private equity money to be able to maybe reinvest in some salespeople that they otherwise couldn't afford, you know, maybe reinvest in some opening up new territories and things like those. So it is an option that's out there for people at that stage. The fifth source of capital that exists out there in the world that's kind of a double-edged sword is actually venture capital. So venture capital operates under the same premises that private equity does, but they don't require the company to even have revenue. There's all kinds of different stages of venture capital funds, and they don't require the company to be cash flow positive either. And basically, venture capital funds are similar to private equity companies, to where they want small percentages or larger percentages of companies, but they just underwrite different opportunities. So private equity companies look for companies that have the potential to, you know, go 5 times the size, and they'll invest in 90% of their fund into companies that are very high confidence that they're gonna at least 5x. Whereas venture companies will basically invest in 100 companies and make 100 bets on companies that could potentially go to $1 billion valuation or to a public IPO outcome. And basically they'll take a lot of risk and only need one company to return that fund. So venture funds are a really great opportunity for founders that really have the idea of taking the company to a venturable outcome, which is IPO. They typically will invest in these aggressive ideas. A lot of times they don't need to have revenue, they don't need to be cash flowing per se, and they can be a great way, especially in the tech space, for you to take a solution to a problem and actually be able to raise some capital and build out the full MVP and then go to market to your customers. So with all 5 rules here, the number 1 rule is that capital is a commodity and you'll be able to secure it, whether it's in the form of credit cards for businesses that are mom and pops looking for marketing help, to maybe a venturable business like my software company called Albuware, which is on the trajectory of going IPO, and that one had the venture capital glove kind of molded to it. But do not let your business be limited in its growth potential and problem-solving potential just because you feel that there isn't enough capital out there, because the reality is there's a ton, you just gotta go find it. If you like this content, want to hear more, please hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. I love sharing things like these and my entire entrepreneurial journey with wonderful people like you.